These two guys, that's the people that drove me in Anderson in about 4 years. You know what I'm saying? I have a speech that was sent to me from a great friend of mine. I just want to speak for a couple of moments. I want to see this story about somebody who was a true patriot quality, a true hero quality. Someone who, and I want to set the stage for the players, but I want you to understand exactly what Gurley went through his life, what he's accomplished in his life, what he means to us here, and what he means to every man out there, every great poly football player, and every great man out there. Because of his generosity, because of his kindness, he's one of the most special people I've ever met. He is a testimony to the human spirit, and he deserves our utmost respect, our highest regard, and I'm so proud that you asked me to say a few words. Now, I wanted to say a few words, and I want to tell my story, but Andy insisted that I didn't know the story, even though she has lost me. We've been great friends for 10 years, and spent a long time together. So he contacted a friend, Phil Gurley, who was also a great Poly alum, was a great athlete. And Phil put some words down on paper that Andy has asked me to read to you. But before I read it to you, I want you to understand something that Jack Finn just said. That is very true. Andy Gurley was probably the most gifted athlete of his era. My dear friend and another Poly icon, and someone who I have an amazing amount of respect for, Hall of Park. Used to talk all the time about a player named Chuck Houghton, in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and even through the 80s, was the greatest football player, maybe the greatest athlete ever come to Poly Prep. And then he would lean over to me, my dear friend, and he would say, but Andy Gurley was better. So let me set that stage here. He's a junior in high school. You guys have a lot of fun right now, right? He had a lot of fun. You can see he and Jack used to enjoy themselves. Andy Gurley was a phenomenal athlete. Think about what it's like every day. When you get out on the field, you run down that field, what it feels like to have that energy, to have that freedom. Think about that. Think about how important that is to every one of you today. All right, you got that? I'm going to read you a little story. I have to read this part because he was inappropriate. Okay, this is Phil Lilly, class of 55. Andy Gurley and I go back a long ways. I entered Poly in the third form in the fall of 1951. We played JV football that year, and after that, varsity. You could immediately see that Gurley was special. We played single wing, and I won't bore you with the details. But Gurley was the tailback who received the snap directly from the center and controlled almost all of the offense, both running and passing, sort of a wildcat with an unbalanced line in the full backfield. I had the honor of being the fullback, whose main job was blocking for the tailback. We played both ways. There were no face masks on the helmet, and some even wore old leather helmets. We were rarely allowed to drink water, never could understand why, and when it was hot, we had to chew one of those god-awful salt tablets, which did nothing except make you more thirsty. It was a different time. The players today are bigger, stronger, and faster. But there was one who would have excelled on today's competitive field, and that was Andy Gurley. He could pass. He had great vision. Could change direction. Was tough, really tough. But most of all, he could run. Really, really run. Sometimes you just stopped playing to watch him. It was a thing of beauty. During the spring, he ran track, and I would glance over from the baseball field. He always looked as if his feet didn't touch the surface. He just kind of glided over it. Our sophomore year, we were pretty good. Andy played some offense, we both played on defense. But his third year, he really blossomed. I had broken my wrist in preseason and was on the sidelines watching Andy run through and around everyone. I got back after about half the season. I think he made a few nice runs in the last game and probably scored, but didn't have that extra gear. Towards the end of the game, he was lined up to receive a punt or maybe a kickoff and turned to me and asked if I wanted to take it, which was unusual for him. He finally did take it, made only a few yards. It was Horace Mann, game at home. I remember because it was the last game either of us had to play. After the game, we stopped off for the usual Pepsi or two. On the way to the subway and on the ride home, his legs bothered him so much that I had to help him up the steps to his house. I remember telling his mother, who was a wonderful woman, his legs were really bothering him. Next thing we heard, Andy had polio. The season was canceled. We all had gamma globulin shots. I guess for our immune system. Polio, or infantile paralysis as it was called then, was a terrifying disease. Apart from the atom bomb, it was the country's greatest fear. Its victims were almost always children, and if you got it, you either died or were paralyzed. I saw its effects a few months later at St. Charles Hospital in Brooklyn Heights, when they finally let Andy have visitors. He was laying flat on his back with his head slightly elevated. He talked, usual crap. And I was about to leave, he looked at me and said, "You know, I'll never walk again." He had one little tear in the corner of his eye. I remember it as if it was yesterday. It wasn't a complaint, just the acceptance of reality. I have never heard him say a word about it since. Andy's next stop was Rusk Institute in Manhattan, and he finally returned to Poly in time for the spring semester of our senior in 1955, over a year later, and Andy was named captain of the team. He never complained, never. Never said, "Why was it me? Why not someone else?" Not once. Andy, I don't know words. We have been together for a long time, and this makes me incredibly uncomfortable to be honored like this, and for people to talk to him about this. But this is not just another old man in a wheelchair. This is a very, very special person, a very courageous human being, one of the most generous people I know in my life. Every young man at the back of that room at one point or another reached out to Andy and said, "Andy, I need your help." And he helped them without question, with great generosity, great support. Be it a job, be it a loan, be it a gift, whatever it was. So Andy, congratulations. You are a personal hero of mine, and we honor you tonight. We're very proud of you.